Hello, dear friends. I am beginning to see the light in the Middle East conflict, with the great shadow of a bombed hospital. From the east comes light, but also shadow. Opinion piece. Contained conflict. Offensive stopped. Large network of tunnels. Gaza and the Great Reset. Light at the end of the tunnel. The third temple of Jerusalem. The Abomination of Desolation. There will be no Armageddon. Agreement to prevent a global conflict. There will be no doom in the Holy Land. Exodus from Gaza to the Egyptian border. Let's start. The forces of light are doing everything possible to contain the conflict in the Middle East, and have informed the families of the black nobility that they will begin to expel them off the planet's surface if this conflict intensifies much further, according to a brief update of the situation written by Cobra. According to Fulford, this is definitively coming to an end. High-level officials from the intelligence agencies would have reached an agreement to prevent the planned Third World War, with selective arrests of the main controllers. The famous people would be nothing more than the public faces of the secret controllers, whose names are hidden for operational security reasons, who are in the spotlight along with their frontmen. This would be the real reason why Israel hesitates to begin its ground offensive on Gaza. Exodus. Thousands of people have taken the path marked by Israel and have begun a complicated exodus from the north of Gaza to the south of the Strip due to fear of a possible land invasion, and now they are trapped in the south, where the humanitarian situation worsens, as warned by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Israel imposed a complete blockade of the Gaza Strip to leave it without electricity, food, or fuel. Located between Israel, Egypt, and the Mediterranean, the exclave has an area of about 10 kilometers wide and 41 kilometers long. It is believed to be one of the most densely populated areas in the world. The population of Gaza exceeded 2 million people, which is an average of around 5,500 people per square kilometer. According to Cobra, the resistance is becoming much more directly involved in surface operations, with the top priority being the elimination of scalar and directed energy weapons, among other things. Resistance operatives are using Hamas tunnels in Gaza as perfect cover to emerge to the surface. Tunnels. One of the biggest challenges it faces is Hamas' extensive network of tunnels beneath Gaza. Several experts have warned that in a ground offensive, Israel would lose its firepower advantage and would have to fight the enemy on its ground. The densely populated area with a network of tunnels is a key aspect of Israel's great security challenge. The tunnel network in Gaza is 500 kilometers long and only 5% was destroyed. These passageways have always been a mystery, and very little is known about them in the outside world. Israel has raised the issue that Hamas operates these labyrinths of tunnels under Gaza and repeatedly uses them to smuggle weapons, fighters, or other illicit trafficking. The countless tunnels under Gaza are best known as corridors used to smuggle goods from Egypt and to launch attacks against Israel. But there is a second underground network that Israeli forces refer to colloquially as the Gaza Metro. It is an extensive labyrinth of tunnels, several kilometers underground, which are used to transport people and goods, store rockets and ammunition, and house command and control centers, far from the prying eyes of surveillance planes and drones. The Great Reset. Gaza burns at the same rate as the Great Reset, according to Dr. Matthew Mavak. Whatever happens in the coming weeks or months, our world appears to be marching in lockstep with the Great Financial Reset. Meanwhile, the global economic system has crossed the point of no return, and that is why they need a systemic crisis. It seems that on the 15th, God cried and delayed the land invasion. It seems that Israel is not going to enter Gaza. They'll surround it and then send in air support. There is no ground invasion at the moment, and it seems that the air attack has stopped because Biden has told them not to invade. The US will take measures to rescue the hostages, but the aircraft carrier are there to calm Iran, which finances Hamas. The mullahs of Tehran consider the Palestinians of Gaza apostates. Israel and the Saudis were close to reaching a peace agreement. There will be no Armageddon. Everyone who promotes this is trying to sell silver and gold or 30 days' worth of emergency food. The latest conflict was the result of a notable concatenation of security failures. The Gaza Strip is monitored at all times by a series of satellites, drones, and military balloons. And let's not forget the large number of spies on both sides. Egyptian intelligence services have had warnings of an imminent attack, but the warnings were ignored. Hamas was created to divide the Palestinian Liberation Movement. The claims of mud at angles come from very ancient times. This story worked in World War I, when British intelligence blamed the Germans for the same thing. It worked decades later when a nurse recounted testimony about unplugged incubators that set the course for the First Gulf War. The Third Temple. If the current conflict escalates beyond the point of no return, the Temple Mount, which is home to the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site, could be destroyed in the confusing fog of war of Islam. The third holiest site of Islam, I wanted to say. The intention to replace a Muslim structure to build the third temple in Jerusalem is no secret. The Jerusalem Temple Institute has prepared every brick necessary for its construction and every ceremonial vessel for its consecration. But there is no consensus or widespread support for the destruction of Muslim structures on the Temple Mount. Conversations on this topic are often related to minority groups and do not represent the views of the majority of Jews or official Israeli policy. The idea of destroying the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque to build the third temple in Jerusalem is a very controversial issue. In the context of politics and religion in the region, there are extremist groups and movements within certain sectors of Judaism that advocate the construction of the third temple on the Temple Mount, which is a sacred place for both Jews and Muslims. Importantly, the vast majority of Hebrews, as well as many religious leaders and organizations in Israel and around the world, oppose any attempt to destroy the Dome of the Rock or the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Such actions could have serious consequences in terms of religious and political conflicts. Israeli authorities have maintained the status quo on the Temple Mount, that allows access to a shared administration of the holy sites among Jews, Muslims, and Christians. Any change in this situation could lead to tensions and conflicts in the region. Back. The Third Temple, or the Temple of the Great Reset, is fervently supported by segments of political Christianity, also known as Mystery Babylon. For this war-mongering group, the scriptures that establish that the consecrated physical body is the true divine temple mean nothing. Any other entity that replaces or vitiates this personal connection with the divine would be proverbial abomination of desolation described in Daniel and Matthew. The term Babylon is mentioned in the Bible in several contexts and refers to the ancient city of Babylon in Mesopotamia. Additionally, Babylon is used to represent evil in opposition to God. According to the doctrine of mystery, Babylon, the angelic kingdom, perverted the gospel message of the Creator written in the stars, but it was in Babylon where it became a formal religion, so it is advised to get out of it and not participate in its sins. In the book of prophet Ezekiel, reference is made to the future reconstruction of the temple. In Ezekiel 40:48, the dimensions and characteristics of the temple, as well as its rituals, are described in detail. This is considered a prophecy anticipating the restoration of the temple in the future. In the book of Zechariah, the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem is also mentioned. Zechariah is one of the most cited references, where it speaks of a man whose name is renewal, who will build the temple of the Lord. This is interpreted as a reference to the Messiah, who would play a role in the construction of the third temple. Would it be the Antichrist? Abomination of Desolation. In the book of Daniel, in the Old Testament, future events related to the temple are mentioned. Daniel is often cited in this context, where he speaks of an abomination of desolation that would be placed in the temple. In the book of Daniel, the abomination of desolation is mentioned in the context of a covenant that will be broken in a half week, which is interpreted as a period of 7 years. The abomination of desolation is associated with a sacrilegious event or action that would desecrate the temple of Jerusalem and bring desolation. The verse says, "The future ruler will make a firm covenant with many for a week, but in the middle of the week, the sacrifice and offering will cease, and the abomination of desolation will be placed on the wing of the temple until complete destruction, which is decreed be poured out upon the desolate." It is considered to refer to a covenant between a future ruler of leader and the people of Israel. This leader will break that pact in the middle of the week, which is interpreted as a 7-year period. Therefore, the abomination of desolation is associated with the desecration of temple, and is considered an event that would precede the construction of the third temple. Jesus also made reference to this theme in relation to future events and the end of times. In Matthew, Jesus warns his disciples about the coming of the abomination of desolation and urges them to flee when they see it. The passage says, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel in the holy place, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." In this context, it is interpreted as a future event of the desecration of the Temple of Jerusalem that would precede catastrophic events related to the end of times and the coming of the Messiah. Issues. The Islamic world's biggest problem is its tendency to fire on its own informed messengers, when not strangling native ideas, innovation and talent. When Egypt's former prime minister cast doubt on the preparedness of Cairo's army On the eve of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, he was dismissed with the derogatory nickname the Jew. Furthermore, almost 85% of the halal foods consumed by 1.8 billion Muslims around the world, representing almost 25% of the world's population, come from non-Muslim nations such as Brazil, India, the USA, Russia, Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. On the geopolitical front, tensions are expected to rise along the Korean Peninsula, the Taiwan Strait, and Ukraine. A long-speculated global risk is the possible sinking of a large ship along the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca, or the Suez Canal, in order to block shipping and global supply chains. The Round letter affirms that the blockade is coming to the Strait of Hormuz, that the war in the Middle East is going to global exposure of the entire intelligence complex, that there will be hostilities in the Pacific, a change in the lines of international trade, and that soon a darkening of the sun to the narrative of meteorological change. We are almost there. News, or breaking news. Putin goes to China, Biden goes to Israel, and Trump says he will go to jail, according to such a file. Europe's largest nuclear plant is attacked almost daily by Ukrainian drones. Iranian troops clash with Israel on the border with Lebanon. Israel says everyone is talking about the ground offensive, but it could be something different. At least 500 deaths after the airstrike against the hospital in Gaza. Netanyahu denies Israel's involvement in the attack on a Gaza hospital. Israel attributes the bombing of the hospital to a failed Islamic Jihad missile. Turkey condemned the attack on a Gaza hospital and assures that it will retaliate. Iran warns of possible preventive actions in the coming hours. Both Egypt and Jordan do not like the Palestinians. Both countries have a violent history with them. King Abdullah of Jordan said he doesn't want them. A violent and indiscriminate attack against the civilian population is a collective punishment that clearly violates international law, said Garzón in Spain. A parade of Atlantic storms will leave rain and strong winds in Spain this week. According to Dr. Joseph Mercola, the goal of Agenda 2030 is no farmers, no food. If we cannot own property, we become someone's property. Do not despise prophecies. Hold fast to what is good and abstain from all evil, says J.W. Anxiety and stress can kill you. This is not the Black Death of the Spanish flu. You will be fine. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.